Thank you everyone for being on the call tonight. I'm really excited to share this information with you. My name is Carolyn McMorran, and I am the Assistant Vice President of what's called Professional Continuing Education at Valencia College. And I just wanted to share with you a little bit about what I do at Valencia, because this is where I've gotten all the great information with. So our area is responsible for creating programs that close skill gaps for employers here locally in our community. And so I have the pleasure of working with students who are transitioning with careers. I also have the pleasure of working with employers who are looking to hire people. And so I get a lot of intel, if you will, on what employers are looking for and what's challenging about the career transition process. And so I'm very excited to just kind of boil all of that down tonight and share that with you. I wanted to let you know that Denise knows how to find me. So if you have any questions after the workshop today, and I do want to thank Denise and Trish for allowing me to come and share this information with you. It's just been a really great partnership with the West Lakes Financial Wellbeing Center. My plan for tonight is to share some really good information with you, but I have left plenty of time for questions at the end, because I realize you might have a specific question about the career transition process, and I just want to make sure that we get all of your questions answered. And I'll actually even stay back just for a few more minutes if there's something that you wanted to ask me privately. We could certainly do that as well. Okay, so we'll go ahead and get started. So as the description read, the career transition process is, it's no secret, it can be very overwhelming and it can be very stressful. So when I work with people who are in that mode of trying to decide what they want to do next in their career, I can just see this look of stress and just not knowing where to start. And I think part of the reason that this process gets to be so stressful and overwhelming is because it's not something that you do every day. Hopefully you don't look for a new career every day. So it's not something that is really, you know, fresh to us. We have to really rethink it every single time that we go down this path. Sometimes I talk to people and they're just like, I have no idea where to start. And so I think that for all of those reasons, it makes this process very overwhelming, very paralyzing. And if you're having any of those emotions right now, you are 100% normal. I just want to say that. And then for the folks that have been experiencing furloughs, layoffs, or companies shutting down because of COVID, if you think about it, during this pandemic, people that thought they were going to have a 30-year career in hospitality have literally had the rug ripped out from underneath them. And so that's caused a lot of people to really contemplate, you know, maybe I need to think about a different industry or a different career for my choices. So the main thing that I want to emphasize here is that if you're having any of these emotions, you are completely normal. And I think that there's some really specific reasons why the career transitioning or just career search process is very, very challenging. What I will tell you though is that some of the information, most of the information I'm going to share with you tonight, will help take some of that away from you. It'll help to give you a sense of direction, which I think helps to alleviate the stress. I'm going to help you with an action plan. And sometimes it's just about that process of moving forward can make you feel really good about it. Now, I put some butterflies on the bottom of the slide, and for those of you who can't see the slides, Denise, I'm sure will be happy to send them to you. But I want to say that I can't remove all of the stress that comes with the career search process, because when you go to that interview, you're probably still going to have some butterflies in your tummy, but I think I can make it a little bit smoother for you in the meantime. So I thought what would be really fun to start with is how we think about the career search process and how we think about careers just in general. I just for fun, I went out and Googled what are the top 10 or top 12 career choices for kids, and dancer is still #1. So when you're a kid, you have big ideas. You want to be an astronaut, a police officer, a law enforcement officer, a lawyer, detective, all kinds of things that, and if you think about it, kids see this on television. And so these things I know that at UCF, the criminal justice degree had an uptick when CSI came onto television. So people see things on television and it influences their career choice. But the reality is that most of us in the career search process really went about a very random path to come up with our career. I know if you had asked me 25 years ago what I would be doing as a career, and if you would have said continuing educator, I would have probably said, what is that? Because I have no idea how I ended up in this amazing career field that I get to be a part of every single day. Sometimes people choose a career because their aunt and uncle did it, or they know a neighbor who did it, and they kind of just fell into a career. Some people went to school for a career. So if you think about a nurse, they go to school, nursing school, to become a nurse. Some people say to me, I'm too old to start the career search process. I never think you're too old. We've actually had our oldest student in one of our programs was 71 years old, and they were retired and just didn't want to be retired anymore. And employers look for people who are really stable. So there's a lot of advantages to that. And some people still work two jobs because they just can't figure out that perfect combination to help support their family and also have a great career. So here's what I'm going to tell you about the career search process. It is something that you really need to invest some time in, and time and energy. And I always tell people that it should be a really important factor that you consider when you're just going about, your work, just like you take pride in getting to work on time and doing a good job. You should also at least once a year, I tell people, do it on your birthday or do it on New Year's Day. So you always have that calendar appointment with yourself to sit down and start asking yourself some questions. Is my career path going the way I want it to? What else do I need to do to accelerate my career? And when you spend some time and some energy really putting behind this, I think that you'll find that the payoffs are really great. So there's some other things that have to go along with your career choice decision. And I want to first say, we're going to talk about financial needs. And I want to tell you that Denise did not pay me to say this. But this is really important. So when I start working with people in the career transition process, I always ask them to think about what is it that you need financially in order to support your family. I encourage people, even if it's just a very simple budget, just to put something together. Because as you can see from this PowerPoint slide, I have a statement on here. So if you made $25,000 a year, but you needed $40,000 a year to support your family, you can already see that you're going to be in a very stressful situation because you're not making enough in your career field to actually support what it is that you need to do. I think managing your finances is a very big part of the career choice process because you need to have an understanding of the money coming in, but also the money going out. And when you invest some time in creating a budget and mapping it out visually, and if you're like me, I'm a visual, tactile person, I have to see it. This is a really important step before you start choosing a career path. And so I just want to make sure, I know Denise has forms and she can help you, but this is a really important thing that I think a lot of people overlook. And then the next area that I think you need to consider in your career choice is what's possible. And what I mean by that is I meet a lot of people who want to do some amazing things with their life or their career choice, but those areas are not here predominantly in Central Florida. So I often say that your career choices are really aligned to the industries that are in your community. And I'll be honest with you, when I first started, one of my first jobs out of college was working in a hotel down in Lake Buena Vista. All that I thought existed in Central Florida were hotels and theme parks. I had no idea how much stuff is manufactured in Central Florida or how big of a career field construction is. I had no concept of other industries. And so your career choices are really predicated on the industries that are in your community and what those industries are doing. If you look right now at hospitality, it's a great industry, but right now because of COVID, there are lots of challenges with that. I often tell people if you wanted to be a snow ski instructor in Orlando, chances are that's not going to be a very good career choice because it's not something that's supported here. And I think another thing when you think about what's possible, there's a difference between a hobby and a career. So a lot of people I meet, some people want to be a music producer or a hairdresser, and there's all kinds of great things. But sometimes those things aren't what's going to help you support your family and also help you on your career trajectory. So it's really important to think about what's possible. And then the final thing, when you think about your career choice and aligning it with your life, that you need to give some consideration for is what are the investments that are going to be needed? And what I mean here is not financial investments, but I mean things like getting a credential, an industry credential. And we're going to talk about those in just a few minutes, or finishing your degree or getting a degree. Some people think, gosh, I could never do that. And once you get started, it's really not that hard. One thing that people don't know is Valencia College offers 2-year degrees, AAs and AS degrees, and you can get those for $6,000. Sometimes we go out in the community and we ask people, you know, what does a degree cost at Valencia? And they'll say things like $50,000. I just want you to know there's a lot of things that are possible and that can help you. And then another thing that happens sometimes in a career transition, especially if it's really significant going from one area to another, is you might have to start at an entry-level position. But some of these positions, these entry-level positions, pay very, very well. And so just being willing and open to invest in whatever this new opportunity is really important. So some things that you just need to consider when you look at your career choice alignment with your life is, what do you need financially to support your family? What's possible in your community? And what are those investments that you might need to make in order to get into this career field? So some other information that I want to share with you is something that you may not know, and you may have heard of generations in the workplace and may know a little bit about it, but I often call this the perfect storm. And what is happening in the workplace, and let's talk pre-COVID for just a minute. So for about the last 5 years, I would say that organizations have been experiencing what we call skill gaps. And there's some reasons why. A perfect storm is a collection of elements that come together and cause a result. And on this particular slide, we're going to talk about some of those elements that are coming together. So right now in the workplace, the baby boomers, which are people like myself, born 1964 or before, are retiring and leaving the workplace at a rate of 10,000 people a day for the next 10 years. I mean, just think about that for a minute. 10,000 people a day for the next 10 years. That is a lot of people that are leaving the workplace. And I often ask people, what do we do when people leave and they retire? And they'll say, we throw them a party. And we absolutely do, because we want to celebrate them. But if you think about it for just a minute, if you started work at 20 and you retire at 60, that is 40 years of intellectual capital, knowledge that's in your head, skills, and how to fix problems that walks out the door of the organization. And so like I mentioned, about 5 years ago, employers started to call me and go, Houston, we have a problem. We can't find people who can do these particular skills. And then a couple other things that contribute to the perfect storm is we have a generation called Generation X, and they are right behind the baby boomers. That particular generation is about 45 million, whereas the baby boomers and the millennials are 75 million. So this generation is about 30 million smaller than the two generations that surround it. I often say and joke that, you know, it's a good thing millennials want to be promoted after 6 days on the job, because probably they will be. There's not enough Gen X to replace the baby boomers that are retiring. And so these millennials that are coming into the work environment are definitely going to have a lot of accelerated opportunities to really grow. And then we have what's called Generation Z. These are about the 22-year-olds that are out there right now. And both the millennials and Gen Z have very limited knowledge of fields like manufacturing, construction, and it's not their fault. This is just a PR issue with those industries. I work with some very eager, excited Gen Z people, and they're like, I want nothing to do with manufacturing. It's dirty, greasy, grimy. And I'll tell you that there's not a single manufacturing plant that I've been in Central Florida that's not full of sparkle, robots, automation, you name it. So I call this the perfect storm because this is all what's going on in the workplace. And I tell people right now could not be a better time to get a new career, to get into a new career path, because this skill gap, this trades gap, this craft gap is so real for employers, and they can't find these people who can do these very specialized jobs. So now let's talk post-pandemic, or I should say current pandemic. I guess we're not through it just yet. Something else that I want you to know about Central Florida is that what I have on the left-hand side are what I would call the pre-pandemic industries that were hiring the most amount of people. The number one was hospitality and tourism, followed by healthcare, manufacturing, construction, IT business, and distribution logistics. And then post-pandemic or during pandemic, the number one industry right now that, in my opinion, is distribution logistics. People are ordering things from their home, and they are used to it and they love it, and I don't think it's ever going to go back. Everything from groceries to Amazon. Amazon, we'll talk a little bit more about them and their footprint here in Central Florida, but the number of distribution logistics companies that are here in Central Florida is unbelievable. Right now, I would say that healthcare is second, followed by construction, manufacturing, IT business, and hospitality tourism is at the end. So in my opinion, and this is validated by CareerSource, these are the programs that our great partner at CareerSource of Central Florida support. The number one industries in our community are these 6 fields. Now, right now, hospitality is definitely having some challenges, and it will come back, but it's probably going to be a couple of years before that actually happens. So these industries that you may not know a lot about are something that you really should maybe take a look at. So let's talk a little bit about these industries that are here in our community. So the first one is, like I mentioned, distribution, logistics, and supply chain. You'll hear it called all 3 of those things. Basically, at the end of the day, what this is are companies that get products to customers. So when you place an order at Amazon and it shows up on your door the same day or the next day, that is what distribution, logistics, and supply chain is all about. Many organizations, all companies have a supply chain, and that's about getting the products that they need in order to do their business. Right now, there are 5.8 million jobs in the United States that are dedicated to supply chain. Amazon, probably the most well-known distribution company, they actually have several facilities here in Central Florida, and they've just leased a brand new one that's going to be a 1.1 million square foot facility off of Princeton. They have one distribution center on Orange Blossom Trail. They have a fulfillment center at the airport on Boggy Creek, and they have 2 other distribution centers in Davenport and both DeLand. So Amazon is moving into our community along with a lot of other companies like Goya and Frito-Lay and Walgreens and Walmart. And all of these companies have these distribution centers here so that they can get products to people. And that's really, really important. It is a fast-moving career field. I tell people you'll have no problem getting your 10,000 steps in for the day because people are up, moving around. And if you're one of those people that don't want to sit behind a desk and you love, mapping things out, creating efficiencies, that is what all of these companies do, and they do so well. I mean, if you think about it, just how ordering supplies has actually changed in just the last 6 months. Another industry is healthcare. If you don't know this, the Orlando Economic Partnership produced a report that said that 1,500 people a day for the next, I believe it's the next 5 to 7 years, are going to be moving into our community. So our population is growing. And by the year 2030, seniors will outnumber people in our community, which is amazing. That's quite a transition for our area. Healthcare is being impacted by COVID. Companies like Advent Health are doing temperature checks for all the Disney guests that are coming into the park. And so you can see how healthcare is going to just continue to grow even through all this pandemic and everything that has to be there. A couple of other industries that I just wanted to highlight for you, construction. I don't know if you've ever thought about construction. I can tell you that over the last 5 years, I've learned a lot about this industry, but it is a $9 billion industry right here in Central Florida. And I don't really have to convince you of that, because if you get on any road in Central Florida, you will see construction. Civil construction is the projects are amazing that are going on here. The Ultimate I-4 project. We also have the Convention Center construction project, and it's going to be phased in, but it got on a little bit of a hold from COVID. But they are going to make the Orange County Convention Center the second largest convention center in the United States. And then another major project, which is a $4 trillion project, is the Virgin Train project, which is a train, a high-speed train that's going to go from the Orlando airport eventually down into the Fort Lauderdale area. So construction is an amazing field. And what I love most about the construction industry is that it has so many different areas that you can go into. So if you learn one thing and you're like, this isn't really my thing, there are so many different areas of construction that you can go into. Also, right now, our home builders are looking for very craft labor skilled talent, because home sales are through the roof. I know it sounds odd during a pandemic, but people are buying homes, and home builders need people to help with the crunch there. Another field that you may not know much about, which is also another area I didn't know much about a few years ago, is the great field of manufacturing. I don't believe people in our community even know all the great things that are manufactured here. The number one thing that we produce in Central Florida are defense systems. So Lockheed Martin is one of our major partners, and they actually build missiles and defense systems here in Central Florida off their Sand Lake Road facility. But there are so many other manufacturers here. We have a Quaker Oats plant in Osceola County that produces 90% of the Gatorade sold in Florida. We have Frito-Lay that produces Doritos and Cheetos, and it's right off of John Young Parkway. So everything from food to medical devices to defense systems, there are so many different manufacturers here. I always tell people, if you're one of those people that like to take things apart and put it back together and you love working with your hands, manufacturing is an amazing, amazing career field choice. And also for women, both construction companies and manufacturing companies love women in these positions. No offense, guys, but our fingers are small. We're very good at detail. We're organized, and we can multitask. And employers highly desire to have women in these non-traditional roles. I just saw this quote, a statistic the other day, so I put this in here. And the U.S. Is only prepared to fill 2.2 million positions of 4.6 that are going to be available in just 8 years. So there is a significant skills gap in manufacturing, and that's what's really important to know about that field. Also, information technology probably won't surprise you that there's an increase there. With cybersecurity, Zoom overnight became one of the most popular products and platforms that people are using to communicate. And also with the ability for touchless systems, there is a great need right now for IT programmers, coders, and cybersecurity. So that is definitely a big area. What's really important to know about all of these industries that we've talked about tonight, it's kind of that concept, you've heard it, of supply and demand. So when there is not a big supply of people that can do these jobs, the hourly rate for these positions goes up. And so it's a big difference between working two $9 an hour jobs versus working one $18 an hour job. So that's why I want to get you to understand that playing to these major industries is a really important strategy in your career choice. And maybe these are just some areas that you've never thought about that you might be interested in. And I just wanted to make sure that you knew about what is available in Central Florida. Also, too, when I meet with people, you know, we have traditional job titles like nurse, accountant, you know, doctor, lawyer, whatever those titles are. Those are traditional things that we know about. But a lot of people, and especially our students, they have no idea about a logistics specialist. Or we had a student that got hired by a spacecraft company over on the Space Coast, and her title is spacecraft assembler. Or could you be a robot technician for Amazon? So there's some really great career titles out there, career paths out there, and they're just not your traditional paths that people would take. So people don't know about these opportunities. And I just wanted to make sure that I kind of showcase to you just a few of the things that people are getting careers and great jobs in. So another thing that I wanted to share with you tonight is what are employers looking for? And I have, like I mentioned in the introduction, I have the opportunity to talk to tons of employers, and what they're looking for are people who can do the job. At the end of the day, that's what they want. And we at Valencia embed in our programs industry certifications. And what these are is these are credentials, certifications, however you want to define them, and they are usually a test and a practical application that you do in order to prove that you've mastered the knowledge that you've just learned in the class. These industry certifications are not only good for you because they give you confidence and competence that you know how to do the job, but they also make you more marketable. So when an employer sees that credential on your resume, it's a flag. It shows them that you've invested some time and energy in that particular topic. We actually had a student that got hired at the Orange County Convention Center because the employer saw the credential on her resume, and that's what got her the interview. And so these industry credentials are something that are really important. And the great news for you, you can earn them in just a matter of weeks, not years. And that's what's really important. They're also portable. So if you go from job to job, which we don't encourage that too much, but if you go from job to job, you can take those credentials with you and you can put them on your resume. And then another thing I would tell you is that employers will talk to us about the technical skills that they're looking for, the industry credentials that would be really important. But I will tell you that what employers are looking for are good human beings. They will tell us, just give us people who want to come to work, who want to learn, who want to be a good team player, who want to communicate, who have a good attitude, who don't bring drama to the workplace. At the end of the day, what they're looking for are just good human beings, people who care and want to come to work. And so I say that because we actually had a situation this week where a company had furloughed a whole lot of people, and they were ready to bring people back. And guess who the people are that they brought back? The people with good attitudes and the people who wanted to go to work. This is a really important area to pay attention to. And also employers will sometimes even say to us, we want people who can manage their lives well, because your life sometimes can come into the workplace with you. And so they want people who get to work on time and, like I said, are just willing to give their best effort every day. And so these are just some of the things that we know that employers are telling us about. So I did want to just spend a few minutes talking about some of the accelerated skill training programs that we have at Valencia, because you may have heard of Valencia and know that we're a college, but you may not know that we have these short-term programs where you can earn these industry credentials. And all of our programs are targeted in those key industries that are here in Central Florida that have skill gaps. The good thing, we call them accelerated skills training programs, or AST for short. And the great thing about these programs is that they're short, 4 to 22 weeks. That's as long as they are. 22 weeks, by the way, is 5.5 months if you want to map it out. The other thing too is that when we teach these programs, they are taught with a very hands-on environment. So you will not be sitting at a desk being lectured to. 80% of what you're going to learn, you're applying with your hands and doing the work right there. All of these programs have industry credentials embedded into them. And remember, we talked about the value of those industry credentials. It lets the employer know what it is that you know. And we work very closely with employers. We have employers that come in. We had a construction company come in on the first day of our class 2 weeks ago, and they said, if you do well in this class, we'll hire every single one of you. And so that's a really important opportunity for our students to get placed. Just real quickly, we have programs in manufacturing, construction, distribution, healthcare, and information technology. If you can see the screen, it has all the programs on it, but if you can't see the screen, I'm sure Denise will be happy to send this PowerPoint to you. We would love to talk to you if you are interested in any of these skill training programs. And right now, for Orange County residents, Career Source of Central Florida has some CARES Act money available to cover the tuition. So that would be a really great opportunity. And if maybe this isn't for you, if you know somebody who is looking for a great career and wants to get started in one of these areas, please definitely reach out to us and let us know. And we will be happy to work with you and talk through these programs with you. In addition to the program content that you learn, you actually will work with a recruiter, and a recruiter will help you choose the right program, get you through the process, and most importantly, help you get your career started with a great organization here in Central Florida. In case you're wondering where we do this training, we have lots of locations around Orlando, and we serve Orange and Osceola County. But we do have a little, we call it a mini CAT facility. It's a Center for Accelerated Training, and it's on 400 Pittman Street, which is right behind the Marriott in downtown Orlando. And so I just wanted to make sure that you knew that that location is there. There are 3 programs that are housed at that location. And again, we do have funding available to cover the tuition for people who apply or who qualify. And right now, if you've been impacted by COVID and you are an Orange County resident, there is funding available to cover the tuition. So I promised you 7 tips for helping you with the career transition process. And so my first tip for you is to explore the critical industries in Central Florida. Maybe prior to tonight, you did not have any knowledge about manufacturing, construction, distribution, any of those great career fields. I really encourage you to think about, what is it that you're passionate of doing? What do you love to do? If you love to work with people, you love to care for people, maybe healthcare would be a great area for you. If you love to work with your hands, maybe manufacturing or construction. If you love to work outside, construction is really pretty much outside. So there's lots of things that you can do and consider, but definitely exploring the critical industries in our community. That is where the greatest need is. And again, back to supply and demand. When the supply is low, the starting salaries go up and up and up. I would tell you 5 years ago, an average construction laborer was making about $11 an hour, and now it's more like $18 an hour. So again, back to supply and demand. Tip number 2 is to work on your resume. Your resume is for you. It does help you to get a job, but I really want to stress that you have to own your career path. And I think working on your resume is the best way to do that. One of the things I wanted to share with you is right now, and especially for the career transition people who are moving maybe from hospitality to another career field, one of the sections that you should keep on your resume is, we call it key skills or professional skills section. Make sure that you are tailoring that area to the job that you're applying for. I had a mechatronics student, that's our industrial maintenance technician program, the other day, and his very first skill was public speaking. And while that's a great skill, it's not the #1 skill for a mechatronics student. So we had to help him kind of readjust that area. If you don't have a resume, the tool that we use at Valencia to help our students with is called resumenerd.com. You can go to the website. It does cost about, I believe, about $5 to get a resume, and it's like a subscription service, so you would want to cancel it after you got what you needed done. But definitely check out the website because it makes creating a resume just so super simple and easy. Just make sure that you mark your calendar and don't let it go past like 28 days or it'll bill you like $24. But just check it out because it's a great resource. You can do different formats. It'll even suggest skills for you. It'll help you with all different types of things. So resumenerd.com, and don't forget this professional skills section, but tailor the skills to the job that you're applying for. Tip number 3 is when you get to the interview, don't make the interviewer work to see how you are the right fit for this job. I tell people just draw a T on the piece of paper and write the job that you're applying for, the job description details on one side, and then write your skills or what's on your resume on the other. Your job is to make as many matches as you can, and you don't want to go into an interview where the interviewer is not really sure how you're going to fit in this new career field. So you've got to help them to do that. And you should do that too when you're filling out the application and sending in a customized resume for that job. That is the #1 reason why people at Valencia don't get an interview, is because they don't tailor their resume and their application to the job that they're applying for. So make sure that you do that. Tip number 4, invest in some kind of education, training, knowledge, whatever that thing is. Valencia has some great opportunities, but so do some other schools in our community. Or there are training organizations. So just do something to get some knowledge in your area and to upgrade your skills. Just earn an industry credential, whatever you can do, but that is what's really, really important. And try to do that like every single year. Tip number 5 is to develop your network. One of the first things that I would ask you is, who do you know? Who do you know in your community that does something that you might want to do? Is it a neighbor, a friend of a neighbor, an aunt, an uncle, a counselor that you have befriended, anyone that you can think of? I put Dr. Russell Levitt on here. I saw him on Instagram the other day. Some of you may have seen him. This is a great story. He was a security officer for a hospital for 5 years. And all he ever wanted to do was go to medical school. He would write medical notes on note cards and study them. And he would walk around the hospital and he would ask doctors if he could shadow them on his day off. And most of the doctors said no. And they kept saying no, but he didn't give up. And one day he asked a doctor if he could shadow him. And it happened to be the chief of surgery, who was I'll get it out in a minute, chief of surgery. And that was the opportunity. So I think Dr. Russell Levitt did a great job of building his network. And now he is a medical doctor. He's gotten through medical school, and he's just doing fabulous. And so that's a good example of, like, you've got to invest in your network. I ask people sometimes to draw circles on a piece of paper. You know, draw the circle in the center of the people that you know that, you know, might be the quickest that can influence your career decision or help you with a career. Then draw another circle and another circle. But you've got to have some kind of plan with your network. And if you don't know people, start meeting people. Develop your LinkedIn profile. There's all kinds of things that you can do out there. But I just really got inspired by that story because he didn't give up, and he really just invested in his network, and I think that's a good example. The sixth tip that I will give you is you have to set goals for yourself. Nobody will set them for you. You've got to do it, and you've got to develop an action plan. If you remember in the very first part of this session, I talked about how it can be overwhelming and stressful. Well, the number one thing that will make this feel less overwhelming and less stressful is if you develop an action plan of what you're going to do. So let's just say you've decided that I'm going to take some action and get a new career. Okay, that can be the goal. And then you've got to think about the steps that you're going to do. And what I would tell you here is that progress is golden. So if you just get one baby step done a day, that's a big step. It really adds up. And within a week, you would have 7 things done towards your new career. And once you get going, you won't stop. And the only thing I would say there is, how are you going to hold yourself accountable? You know, sometimes saying it out loud, writing it down, making a chart, you know, in your room, and just saying, I'm going to tick these things off every single day. But you got to set some goals, and you've got to create an action plan, or you won't ever move. And unfortunately, nobody's going to do it for you. You've just got to do it for yourself. And then number 7 is, we hope that you'll consider one of Valencia's AST programs. If you really are interested in one of those 5 critical industries, I think we have lots of opportunities that could play to your passion and really help you with your career choice. So I think that's all the information that I have to share. So I just want to, I'm going to stop sharing here. And so if anybody has any questions, I wanted to make sure that we left time for questions and answers tonight.